Hey guys and girls, welcome back to BBR Suspension. Okay, so we are making pretty good headway and pretty good progress on the Porsche suspension. Today we're going to start making the jigs. I've basically got all the steel cut. So what we're going to do is we're going to start marking the steel, and then we're going to weld up the basic T section for the jigs. We're going to do one for the top arm and one for the bottom arm. Once we've got the T section welded up, and we'll just polish the welds down top and bottom so that it stays flush. We'll then mark and drill the angle brackets, and we'll get those welded into position. And what the angle brackets are going to do, they are going to control the width of the actual pivot bushes. So it's the easiest way to do it is just to weld a piece of angle line onto the actual initial jig. We'll then bolt, we'll make a dummy bush which goes into the pivot, and we'll bolt that through with a piece of ready bar so that's straight. And then the idea is to get the jig perpendicular to that rod so that when we do the jigs, and also center to the pivot bushes, so when we do the jigs, the idea is that we can flip the arms upside down and weld the other side as well, and they should be basically symmetrical left to right. So what we'll do, I've cut the steel. We're going to be using a 50 by 38 rectangular tubing with a 2mm wall. It's pretty strong stuff. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to mark the steel now. Then we'll basically clamp it down. We'll use some 90-degree magnets just to hold it in position. We'll get it tacked, then we'll fully weld the T piece. And then once we got that done, we'll do the rest. But for now, let's get started with the actual rectangular tubing. Right, so the back section is basically 500mm. So we'll mark the center and just go 25 either side of center, which will then be our reference to the outside of the actual piece that goes off it. So we'll just mark that with a square. Then what we'll do, that will basically line up like that. So we'll get some magnets. I'll just give them a wipe down to make sure there's no filings and swarf on the edges. We do want some accuracy here. So what we'll do, we'll get the magnets in position, get these down, and we can knock it across. Now we'll get them straight and sorted now, and then we will double check everything with a square once we've tacked it. Right, so we need to make sure, number one, that both tubes are flush on the table. We'll get it into position and then we'll do the final clamp. But let's get the magnets into place. We might have to just use a mallet to tap these across a smidge. And bring this down so we are flush. That's looking good. We'll double check with a square. We don't have a hell of a lot of space to work with, so we've got to get in with a small square. But that is square from both sides. That's looking good. So what we'll do, give this a slight knock. We'll recheck it quickly, and then we'll get ready to weld these. That looks good. Right, let me get my hood and get ready for welding, and we'll be back in a second. Right guys, so we've got it clamped. We're just going to recheck that it is square. That looks good. Just make 110% sure. Yeah, that looks perfect. So what we're going to do, we're going to tack it in quite a few places so that there's absolutely no risk of it pulling when we weld it. The jig needs to be pretty strong and pretty straight so that when we weld the actual suspension struts, nothing pulls out of alignment. So what we'll do, we'll put a tack either side, we'll flip it over, we'll tack it there, and then we'll tack it in the sides, or possibly even weld the sides first. But let's get cracking with the welding. So for mild steel, we're doing a straight DC current. We're welding at 105 amps or tacking at 105 amps. We'll turn it down to about 95 amps when we do the weld so that we get proper penetration. So let's send it. Do a quick recheck. Looking good. We'll flip it over, tack the other side. The reason we're tacking both sides is that we don't get this kind of bowing. We want this perfectly flat as well. Although when we tack everything in position, it should be flat. So let's get this one tacked. Okay guys, so we're over at the mill and I'm just using a pinpoint locator to pick up the holes that I've center punched so that we can drill them. So we'll do a quick pilot hole and then we can drill a 12mm hole. Now I've got a small sacrificial wooden block underneath so that we're not drilling into our mill vise. So we're going to drill a 12mm hole through the angle line, and then we'll use some ready bar to locate everything and get the distance between. Speed that up a wee bit. There we go. Let's get rid of that swarf. So we can do the next one. Just got to do all 4 of these quickly. So there's 2 top, 2 bottom. Make sure that center is center. Just get them more or less center, and then we can pick it up with this. Right, we should be good to go there. Put our little center drill through first. Right guys, okay, so we've got the basic T format welded up. I've marked each one top arm and bottom arm respectively. So what we're going to do, we'll measure on the bottom arm, the gap between the angles needs to be 390 mils. So what we'll do is we'll just double check and measure the exact center, make sure that we are on center, and then we'll just put an actual line that we know we're in the center, and we'll measure then 195 mils either side. So take any reference and we'll do 195 to either side. And what we'll do, we'll just make a line with the square so we're exactly square. Same on this side. Right, then our angle brackets are going to basically get clamped on like that. And what we'll do is we'll tack each side, front and back. I don't want any welds on the inside here, just in terms of having the extra space. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to do the initial clamp, and then we're going to put a threaded rod through and just put nut either side, nut and washer either side, and then we'll take a measurement just to verify that everything is correct. Once we've got that all set up, then we can make sure and double check those measurements, and we'll be able to tack them in position. And once we got them tacked, then we'll be able to fully weld on the two sides and probably on the back. Let's get this in a smidge, get a slightly better grab on it. Right, so we've got that one clamped in place. We'll get this one clamped quickly. Right, so we should have 390. Yeah, that's looking good. 390, and we'll check that they are square. So it's important that these are square, which I've got a slight discrepancy there. So what we'll do is we'll just get a hammer and tap them square. Then we can tack them, and then once they're tacked, we'll put the threaded bar through just to hold them when we fully weld, so that nothing pulls out of alignment. It's just an additional support that we're going to use. So I'll just grab a hammer and we can quickly tack those, make sure that they're square. So this specific one, need to come in slightly at the bottom. I'll tighten up that clamp. And on this one, we also need to come in slightly at the bottom. Right, so that's perfect. We'll recheck that measurement now. Yeah, 390. Right, so that will be the outer edge. That 390 millimeters is going to be the outer edge of the pivot bushes that we've made, and then the arms go forward. So what we're going to do, we're going to make sure that we are straight on the edge, and then we will get set up for welding, and then we can tack these in position. Get the clamps loose, put the threaded bar through, and then fully weld. We'll probably put about a 5mm stitch on each edge around the 3 other sides. We don't need to do the entire length. It's overkill, and also putting additional heat in, you could always twist the tubing, so we want to limit the twist on the actual jig. So we'll put about a 5mm stitch from each edge or each corner, let's say, and we'll do that right around. And then what we can do, we can then do the top arm. This is obviously the bottom arm that we're doing first. So let's get prepped for welding, and we'll see you under the hood. Right, so what we're going to do, we're going to get a tack just on every corner to hold these initially. Once we've got that tack in position, we can then put the threaded rod through with some nuts and washers, and it just makes it easier to rotate, and that threaded rod is just an additional safety, not that it really is necessary, but let's get started. Right guys, so what I've done now is I've jumped over to Fusion 360 and I've drawn up the outer sleeve of the camber adjuster. So what we need to do is I need to work out exactly the distance between two square support brackets, which will bring the center line of that camber adjuster in line with the center line of the pivot bushes on the upper arm. So basically this is only for the upper jig, but what it'll do is it'll keep that center line of the camber adjuster in line with the center line of the tubes as well as the center line of the pivot bushes, and this basically allows us to have the symmetry that I spoke about a little bit earlier. So we can flip the arms upside down and have the same symmetry. So you'll see what I've done. I've drawn it up and then used the measuring tool in Fusion to measure the distance, which as you can see is around about 11.136 or 138 millimeters. So obviously we don't have to work to 3 decimal places in terms of the accuracy, but what we'll do is we will basically work to about 11.1 millimeters. I'll measure that out with a vernier when I clamp it, and then we can tack the 2 pieces of key steel onto the rectangular tubing, and that will complete the jig for the top arms. So for now I'll get this cut and tacked on, and as always, thanks for watching, and we will see you in the next video. Take care for now, guys. Cheers.